A 16-year-old girl left her home before sunrise. She did not take her phone. She did not take her belongings. Witnesses say they saw her walking near a lonely desert highway, alone. After that, nothing. No phone call. No message. No confirmed sighting. Months later, one piece of the story changed. A statement about her final morning, given to a major TV network, was admitted to be false. This is the story of Karlie Gusé. And right now, nobody can tell you what happened to her. If stories like this should not be forgotten, stay with me. Karlie deserves to be remembered as more than a missing person poster. Karlie was 16 years old. She had dark blonde hair and blue eyes, and her left nostril was pierced. She loved dancing. She had a boyfriend. She had an after-school job, the kind of job most teenagers have while they figure out who they want to become. Her mother, Lindsay, described her simply. "She is absolutely loved by everybody that knows her," Lindsay said. "She's such a sweet girl. She's funny." Karlie's parents divorced when she was younger. For a while, she lived with her mother, Lindsay, who eventually settled in Nevada. But for roughly 8 to 10 years before she disappeared, Karlie lived with her father, Zachary, and her stepmother, Melissa, in California. Lindsay later said Karlie was someone she could talk to openly. A mother and daughter who stayed close, even with some distance between their homes. In 2018, Karlie's father and stepmother moved the family from Bishop to a small community called Chalfant in Mono County. It's a quiet stretch of California, high desert country, where Highway 6 cuts through wide-open land. Karlie didn't even have to change schools, since the new home stayed in the same district. Life, on paper, looked stable. Family members later described her as a generally happy teenager in the time before she disappeared. Then came October. On Friday, October 12, 2018, Karlie went out to spend time with friends. At some point that evening, according to Karlie's mother, who later spoke with Karlie's boyfriend, Karlie began to feel unwell. She wanted to go home. She called her stepmother Melissa and asked for a ride. Melissa picked her up. They got back to the house at around 9 that night. Karlie's father later said something that stayed with investigators. He said Karlie seemed disoriented when she came home. What does that mean exactly? Nobody outside the family has confirmed it. Was she tired? Unwell? Something else? The data does not say, and we are not going to guess. What we do know is this. Karlie went to bed that night, in her own home, with her family around her. Then comes the part of the story that gets harder to pin down. The FBI says Karlie was seen by her family at the residence during the pre-dawn hours of Saturday, October 13. That much is in their official record. But the exact time? That part became complicated. Here's why. Karlie's stepmother, Melissa, was interviewed for the show Dateline not long after Karlie disappeared. In that interview, Melissa said she opened the bedroom door at around 5:45 in the morning. She said she saw Karlie there, in bed, asleep, for months. That detail helped frame the entire case. If it was true, Karlie was safe in her bed less than 2 hours before she vanished. Then, in March of 2019, during an interview on the Dr. Phil show, Melissa said something that changed everything. Yeah, that was a false story, she said. It was a lie about checking in on Karlie. She explained that the interview happened early in the investigation and that she didn't know what to say at the time. Let's be very clear about what this does and does not tell us. It tells us the timeline investigators relied on for months was wrong. It tells us the exact moment Karlie was last seen inside. That home is no longer something we can state with confidence. It does not tell us that Melissa harmed Karlie. It does not prove she knows where Karlie is. Melissa has never been named a suspect in any official record provided for this case. Changing a statement is not the same as confessing to a crime. People lie to reporters for all kinds of reasons, including panic, grief, and simply not knowing what to say when a camera is pointed at you during the worst week of your life. But it does mean one important thing. We don't actually know when Karlie left her house. We only know that, at some point in the early morning hours, she walked out the door. She left her phone behind. She left her other personal belongings behind, too. If you've ever been a teenager, you know how strange that is. A 16-year-old girl walking out into the dark without her phone. Why would she do that? Was she planning to come right back? Did something happen that made her leave in a hurry? We don't know. The data doesn't tell us, and we won't pretend that it does. She was likely wearing a white t-shirt, gray sweatpants or jeans, and a pair of Vans shoes. Simple, ordinary clothes. The kind of thing you'd wear if you weren't planning to go far. And then, somewhere along Highway 6, people saw her. Witnesses reported seeing Karlie walking south in a remote stretch near the highway. The FBI places the location at about 30 yards east of Highway 6 and about 100 yards south of a road called Sierra View Road. This is high desert country, wide open, dry, the kind of landscape where you can see for miles, but there's almost nowhere to hide and almost nowhere to disappear to. That sighting is the last confirmed moment anyone has placed Karlie in this world. So why did no one hear anything afterward? Why has there been no message, no contact, nothing at all? Back at the house, her father and stepmother began to worry. At first, they thought she might have gone for a walk. They drove around the area looking for her. 2 hours passed. Then, a little more. By around 9:30 that morning, they still hadn't found her. Zachary called Karlie's mother in Nevada. Then, he called the Mono County Sheriff's Office. Deputies arrived. They questioned neighbors. They searched the family home. Karlie's phone was still there. Her belongings were still there. She was not. The investigation expanded quickly. Helicopters searched from above. Scent dogs worked the ground. Search and rescue teams combed the high desert. Off-road vehicles and foot patrols covered as much terrain as they could. Investigators conducted interviews with family members, friends, and neighbors. They reviewed Karlie's phone records and her social media activity, looking for anything that might explain where she'd gone. Authorities have described the family as cooperative throughout the investigation. Despite all of that effort, despite the helicopters and the dogs and the volunteers walking that dry open land mile after mile, Karlie was not found. No confirmed physical evidence explaining her disappearance has been described in the official record. One question came up early. Why wasn't an Amber Alert issued? It's a fair question, and it deserves a fair answer. An Amber Alert isn't automatically sent out every time a child goes missing. Law enforcement generally needs specific information suggesting an abduction, along with details the public can actually act on, like a description of a vehicle or a suspect. The Mono County Sheriff's Office said that, at the time, there was no evidence indicating Karlie had been taken. That doesn't mean they weren't searching. It means the legal criteria for that particular tool weren't met. So if Karlie wasn't abducted, where did she go? Investigators have had to consider more than one possibility, because the truth is, nobody knows. One possibility is that Karlie left on her own. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she needed space. Maybe something was happening in her life that we simply don't have the details for. But if that's true, it doesn't explain why she's never contacted anyone in all this time. No call. No message. Nothing. Another possibility is that something happened to her out in that high desert landscape. It's beautiful, but it's also unforgiving. People have gotten lost or hurt in terrain like that before. Search teams covered a wide area, but a person or evidence can still be hard to find in land that vast. A third possibility is that Karlie encountered someone after she was last seen near Highway 6. There is no confirmed evidence in the official record that she got into a vehicle or that anyone followed her, but it remains a question investigators have had to weigh. None of these has been proven. None of them is the official answer. They are simply the questions that remain open. What about Karlie's boyfriend, Donald? According to Karlie's mother, he told her that Karlie had felt unwell that night and wanted to go home. He later posted publicly that he missed her and wanted her to come home. Nothing in the available record connects him to her disappearance. What about online theories? You may have seen them. Speculation spreads fast on the internet, especially in cases like this one. But speculation is not evidence, and no official source has confirmed that any family member was responsible for what happened to Karlie. We're not going to repeat unproven accusations here. Karlie deserves better than rumors standing in for facts. The FBI has not let this case go quiet. They continue to work alongside the Mono County Sheriff's Office. They maintain an active missing person poster for Karlie. They're offering a reward of up to $5,000 for information that leads to finding her. The FBI also released a video series called The Things They Carry. It includes interviews with Karlie's father, her stepmother, witnesses, investigators, and people in the community who were affected by her disappearance. The fact that this series exists tells you something important. This case has not been closed. It has not been forgotten. Someone, somewhere, may still hold a piece of information that could change everything. It's now been years since Karlie walked out of her family's home in Chalfant Valley. Years without a phone call. Years without a message. Years where her mother, her father, her brother, and the people who loved her have had to live with a question that never gets answered. Where is she? Think about what that actually means. Day after day. Birthdays pass. Holidays pass. And there is no closure, no funeral, no answer, just an open file and a phone that never rings with the news a family is waiting for. That is its own kind of pain. One that doesn't show up in a search report or a case file, but it is real, and it has lasted for years now. If Karlie is alive today, she would look different than she did at 16. Time changes people, but the core facts of who she was haven't changed. She liked to dance. She had a boyfriend who missed her. She had a job. She had a mother who called her sweet and funny, and meant it. Karlie Gusé remains missing. No official source has confirmed whether she left on her own, was hurt by accident, encountered another person, or became the victim of a crime. Her phone and her belongings stayed behind in that house. Witnesses saw her walking near Highway 6. After that, the trail went silent. If you know anything, even something that seems small, it could matter. You can contact the Mono County Sheriff's Office by email at karliegusetips@monosheriff.org or by phone at 760-932-5678. You can also reach the FBI's Sacramento office at 916-746-7000 or submit a tip anonymously at tips.fbi.gov. More than a missing person poster, Karlie was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a 16-year-old girl whose story still has no ending. For more respectful missing person and cold case documentaries,